Huainanzi Chapter 15:15.1 In antiquity, those who used the military did not value expanding territory or covet the possession of gold and jade. They sought to sustain those who were perishing, revive those lineages that had been cut off, pacify the chaos of the world, and eliminate harm to the myriad people. All beasts that have blood and chi are equipped with teeth and horns. 2. They have claws in front and paws behind. Those with horns gore, those with teeth bite, those with poison sting, those with hooves kick. When they are happy, they play with one another, when they are angry they injure one another, this is their heaven-born nature. Humans have instincts for clothing and food, yet material things are lacking. Thus they settle together in various locations. If the division is not equal, if demands are not fulfilled, they fight. When they fight, the strong threaten the weak and the brave attack the cowardly. People do not have strong muscles and bones or sharp claws and teeth, thus they cut leather to make armor, they forge iron to make blades. Greedy and cruel people brutalize and rob the world. The myriad people are shaken, they cannot rest in tranquility with what they possess. The sage rises up vehemently, punishing the strong and the violent and pacifying the chaotic age. He suppresses danger and eliminates disorder. He makes the sullied pure, he makes the imperiled calm. Thus people are not cut off in midlife. The origins of the military are distant. The Yellow Emperor once warred with Yan Di, 3. Zhuangzi once fought with Gong Gong. 4. The Yellow Emperor warred in the wilds of Zhuilug, 5. Yao warred on the banks of the river Dan, 6. Shun attacked the Yumiao, 7. Qi attacked the Yuhu. 8. Since the time of the 5 Thearchs, no one has been able to ban the military, much less in a declining age. 15/142/21, 29:15.2 The military sees to it that the violent are curtailed and the disorderly are punished. Yan Di created a conflagration, thus the Yellow Emperor captured him, Gong Gong created a flood, thus Zhuangzi executed him. If one teaches them the way, guides them with potency but they do not listen, then one displays martial might to them. If one displays martial might to them but they do not obey, one controls them with weapons and armor. Thus the sage's use of the military is like combing hair or weeding seedlings, those he eliminates are few, and those he benefits are many. There is no harm greater than killing innocent people to support an unrighteous king, there is no calamity more profound than to exhaust the wealth of the world to satisfy one person's desires. If King Ji of Xia and King Zhao of Yin had met with calamity as soon as they harmed the people, they would not have reached the point of creating the roasting beam. 9. If Duke Li of Jin and King Kong of Song had met with the death of their persons and the destruction of their states as soon as they committed one act of unrighteousness, they would not have reached the point of invading and conquering or unleashing tyranny. These 4 rulers all committed small transgressions and were not punished, thus they arrived at unsettling the world, harming the common people and extending the calamity of the realm by giving free rein to a single man's deviance. This is what the standard of heaven will not accept. A ruler is established in order to curtail the violent and punish the disorderly. Now if one commands the strength of the myriad people yet conversely commits cruelty and robbery, this is like a tiger sprouting wings. How can it not be eliminated? 15/143/1, 8. One who raises fish in a pond must fend off otters, one who raises birds and animals must likewise fend off wolves. How much more so the one who governs people? Thus the military of a hegemon or king is given forethought according to standards, is planned for according to strategy, is applied according to rightness. It is not used to destroy those that survive but to sustain those that are perishing. When he hears that the ruler of an enemy state is being cruel to his people, he raises the military and descends on the enemy's borders. He blames the enemy for his lack of rightness, he criticizes him for his excessive actions. When the military reaches the suburbs of the enemy capital, he commands the army, saying, "Do not cut down trees, do not disturb graves, do not scorch the 5 grains, do not burn property, do not take the people as slaves, do not steal the 6 domestic animals." Then he issues a pronouncement and effects an edict, saying, "The ruler of X kingdom has scorned heaven and insulted the ghosts. He has imprisoned the innocent, he has wrongfully executed the blameless. This is what is punished by heaven, what is hated by the people. The coming of the military is to cast aside the unrighteous and to restore the virtuous. Anyone who opposes the way of heaven and leads those who rob the people will be killed and his clan exterminated. Anyone who leads his family to obey will be given an income for his household, anyone who leads his village to obey will be rewarded with control of his village, anyone who leads his town to obey will be given his town as a fief. Anyone who leads his district to obey will be made marquis of his district. His conquest of the kingdom does not touch the people, he only discards their ruler and changes their government. He reveres their excellent scholars and gives prominence to the worthy and the good. He uplifts their orphans and widows and shows compassion to their poor and desperate. He releases those unjustly imprisoned, he rewards those who have merit. The common people open their doors and await him, they cook rice and supply him, only fearing that he will not come. This was how Tang and Wu became kings and how Duke Huan of Qi and Duke Wen of Jin became hegemons. Thus when the ruler is without the way, the people yearn for the military just as they hope for rain during a drought or plead for water when they are thirsty. Who among them will lift a weapon to meet the military? Thus to conclude without battle is the ultimate of the righteous military. 15/143/10, 2115.3 In regard to the military of later ages, although rulers may be without the way, none do not dig moats, build battlements, and defend them. Those who attack do not do so to curtail violence or eliminate harm, they want to invade the land and expand their territory. For this reason, the bodies pile up and the blood flows, they face one another all day, yet the achievement of a hegemon does not appear in the age. It is because they act selfishly. One who wars for territory cannot become a king, one who wars for himself cannot establish his merit. One who takes up a task on behalf of others will be aided by the multitude, one who takes up a task on his own behalf will be discarded by the multitude. One who is aided by the multitude must become strong even if he is weak, one who is discarded by the multitude must perish even if he is great. 15/143/23, 26 The military is weak if it loses the way, strong if it obtains the way. The commander is inept if he loses the way, skillful if he obtains the way. What is called the way embodies the circle and is modeled on the square, shoulders the yin and embraces the yang, is soft on the left and hard on the right, treads in the obscure and carries illumination. It alters and transforms without constancy, it obtains the source of the one and thereby responds limitlessly. This is called spirit illumination. The circle is heaven, the square is earth. Heaven is circular and without terminus, thus one cannot view its form, the earth is square and without boundaries, thus one cannot see its gateway. Heaven transforms and nurtures yet is without form, earth generates and rears and yet is without measure. Vague, hazy, who knows their capacity? All things have that which defeats them. 10. Only the way is invincible. 11. It is invincible because it has no constant shape or force. It cycles ceaselessly, like the motion of the sun and moon. Just as summer and autumn alternate, just as the sun and the moon have day and night, it reaches an end and begins again, it illuminates and becomes dark again. None can attain its pattern. 15/144/1, 7. It controls form yet is formless, thus its merit can be complete. It objectifies things yet is no object, thus it triumphs and does not submit. 15/144/9 15.4 Form/punishment 12 is the ultimate of the military. Arriving at being without form/punishment may be called the ultimate of the ultimate. For this reason, the great military does no injury, it communicates with the ghosts and spirits. It does not brandish the 5 weapons, yet none in the world dares oppose it. It sets up its drums but does not open its arsenal, and none of the lords of the land do not freeze in terror. Thus one who wars from the temple becomes emperor. 13 One who effects spirit transformation becomes king. What is called warring from the temple is modeling oneself on the way of heaven. Spirit transformation is modeling oneself on the four seasons. He cultivates governance within his borders, and those afar long for his potency. He achieves victory without battle, and the lords of the land submit to his might. It is because internally his government is ordered. 15/144/9, 12 In antiquity those who obtained the way in stillness modeled themselves on heaven and earth, in motion complied with the sun and moon. In delight and anger they corresponded to the four seasons, in calling and answering they were comparable to the thunder and lightning. Their voice and breath did not oppose the eight winds, their contracting and extending did not exceed the five standards. 14 Below to those creatures that have armor and scales, above to those that have fur and feathers, all were ordered from first to last. Among the myriad creatures and the 100 clans, from beginning to end, none was without its proper place. For this reason, the way enters what is small without being pressed, lodges in what is vast without being exposed. It seeps into metal and stone, it washes over grasses and trees. From something that expands to fill the limits of the 6 coordinates to the end of a single hair, nothing does not cleave to it. The penetration of the way suffuses what is most subtle. There is nowhere it does not reside, this is why it triumphs over the powerful and the many. 15/144/14, 18:15.5 In archery, if the calibration of the sights is not correct, the target will not be hit. With the thoroughbred, if even one tally goes unused, 1,000 li will not be reached. 15 Being defeated in battle does not happen on the day the drums give the order to advance, one's daily conduct has been without discipline for a long time. Thus in the military that has obtained the way, the chocks are not removed from the chariot wheels. The mounts are not saddled, the drums raise no dust, the banners are not unfurled, the armor is not removed from its casings. 16 The blades do not taste blood, the court does not change its location, the merchants do not leave the market, the farmers do not leave the fields. When the ruler issues a righteous summons and charges them, large kingdoms pay court, small cities submit. He follows people's desires and marshals the people's strength by eliminating cruelty and dispelling thievery. Thus, those who value the same thing will die for one another, those who share the same feelings complete one another, those who have the same desires will find one another, those who hate the same thing will assist one another. If one moves in compliance with the way, the world will respond as an echo. If one plans in compliance with the people, the world will be one's weapon. When hunters are pursuing game, the chariots race and the men run, each exhausting his strength. There is no threat of punishment, yet they scold one another for stumbling and urge one another on because they all will share in the benefit. When those in the same boat are crossing a river and meet suddenly with wind and waves, the sons of the 100 clans all quickly grab the oars and row the vessel, 17 as if they were the right and left hands of a single person. They do not contend with one another because they share the same distress. Thus the enlightened king's use of the military is to eliminate injury to the world, and he shares its benefits with the people. The people work as sons do for their fathers, as younger brothers for their elder brothers. The impact of the king's might is like a mountain collapsing or a dike bursting, what enemy would dare to oppose him? Thus, he who excels at using the military uses the people for their own sakes. If you use people for their own sakes, then none in the world may not be used. If you use people for your own sake, what you achieve will be scanty. 15/144/20, 29:15.6 The military has three foundations: in ordering the kingdom, regulate within the borders. In effecting humaneness and rightness, spread moral potency and benevolence. In establishing correct laws, block deviant paths. 18 When the collected ministers are intimately close, the common people are harmonious, superiors and inferiors are of a single mind, ruler and minister unite their efforts. The lords of the land submit to your might and the four directions cherish your moral potency, you cultivate governance in the temple hall and extend control beyond 1,000 li, you fold your hands, issue commands, and the world responds as an echo. This is the highest use of the military. When the territory is broad and the people numerous, the ruler is worthy and the commanders loyal, the kingdom is rich and the military strong, covenants and prohibitions are trustworthy, pronouncements and orders are clear. The two armies oppose each other, the bells and drums face each other, yet the enemy flees before the soldiers meet or blades clash. This is the middling use of the military. When you understand what suits the terrain, practice the beneficial use of narrow and obstructed positions, discern the alterations of the extraordinary and the usual. 19. Investigate the rules for marching and formation. Dispersion and concentration, bind the drumsticks to your forearms. And roll the drums. White blades meet, flying arrows are exchanged, you wade through blood and tread through guts, you cart the dead away and support the wounded, the blood flows for 1,000 li, exposed corpses fill the field, thus victory is decided. This is the lowest use of the military. Now everyone in the world knows to work at studying its branches, and none knows to resolve to cultivate its root. This is to discard the root and plant the limbs. 15/145/1, 8. Those things that assist the military in victory are many, those that ensure victory are few. If armor is sturdy and weapons sharp, chariots are solid and horses excellent, rations and equipment sufficient, officers and men numerous, these are the great foundations of the army, yet victory is not found here. If one is clear about the movements of the stars, planets, sun, and moon, the rules of rescission and accretion 20 and the occult arts, 21 the advantages of the rear, front, left, and right, these are aids to warfare, yet completeness is not found here. That by which the excellent commander is ensured victory is his constant possession of a knowledge without origin, a way that is not a way. It is difficult to share with the multitude. 15/145/10, 13. 15.7 Meticulously recruiting personnel, being timely in movement and rest, distinguishing officers and enlisted men, maintaining weapons and armor, ordering marching squadrons, organizing platoons and companies, clarifying drum and banner signals. These are the office of the adjutant. 22. Distinguishing army camps, scouring the terrain thoroughly, choosing the location of the army, these are the office of the master of horse. Knowing which terrain is obstructed or passable to the front or the rear, on encountering the enemy knowing what is difficult or easy, issuing reprimands so that there is no negligence or idleness, this is the office of the commandant. Ensuring that movement along the route is swift, that transport of the baggage is orderly, that the size of the camp is standard, that the positioning of the army is concentrated, that the wells and stopes are dug properly, these are the office of the master of works. Collecting and storing materials in the rear, leaving nothing behind when camp is moved, that there are no poorly packed carts, that there is no missing baggage, these are the office of the quartermaster. These 5 officers are to the commander as the arms, legs, hands, and feet are to the body. He must choose men, assess their talents, and make sure that each officer can shoulder his responsibilities and each man is capable of his task. He instructs them with regulations, he applies them with orders, using them the way that tigers and leopards use their claws and teeth, flying birds use their wings. None is not employed. However, they all are implements that assist victory, they are not that by which victory is ensured. 15/145/13, 19. 15.8 The victory or defeat of the military has its basis in governance. If governance overcomes the people, subordinates will follow their superiors, and the military will be strong. If the people overcome their government, subordinates will rebel against their superiors, and the military will be weak. Thus, if moral potency and rightness are sufficient to encompass the people of the world, if tasks and works are sufficient to meet the urgency of the world, if selection and promotion are sufficient to win the minds of the worthies and scholars, if plans and designs suffice to comprehend the heft of strength and weakness, this is the root of certain victory. 15/145/19, 21 Vast territory and numerous people do not suffice to make one strong, sturdy armor and sharp weapons do not suffice to make one victorious, high walls and deep moats do not suffice to make one secure, strict orders and complex punishments do not suffice to make one mighty. One who practices the governance of survival, though his kingdom is small, will certainly survive. One who practices the governance of extinction, though his kingdom is large, will certainly perish. In antiquity, the territory of the kingdom of Chu 23 on the south was ringed by the Yuan and Xiang rivers, on the north was circled by the Ying and Si rivers, on the west was contained by the states of Ba and Shu, on the east, was wrapped by the states of Tan and Pai. It had the Ying and Ru rivers as ditches, the Yangtze and Han rivers as moats. Fenced in by the dense forest, screened by a defensive wall. The mountains were so high they scraped the clouds, the valleys so deep there were no shadows. The terrain was advantageous, the conditions favorable, the soldiers and people courageous and daring. They had shark's leather and rhinoceros hide to make armor and helmets, they had long halberds and short spears together to make up the vanguard. They had repeating crossbows to bring up the rear, massed chariots to guard the flanks. At the quick they were like bolts and arrows, 24 concentrated they were like thunder and lightning, dispersed they were like the wind and rain. However, their soldiers fell at Chawisha, 25 their multitudes were broken at Bajug. 26 The might of Chu spanned the earth and encompassed the masses, their portion was half the world. Yet King Huai 27 feared Lord Menchang to the north, so he abandoned the defense of his ancestral altars and became a hostage of mighty Qin. His soldiers defeated and his territory pared away, he died without returning home. The second emperor of Qin 28 had the force of the Son of Heaven and the wealth of the world. Nowhere that human footprints reached or that was traversed by boat and or was not his prefecture or district. Yet, he was ensnared in the desires of the ears and eyes, he practiced every possible variety of license and wickedness. He paid no heed to the people's hunger, cold, poverty, and distress. He raised a chariot force of 10,000 chariots and built the Afang Palace, he dispatched conscripted villagers for garrison duty and collected taxes of more than half of income. Those among the common people who were conscripted or executed, who died gripping the crossbar of a wagon or at the head of the road, numbered countless myriads every day. The world was feverish as if scorching hot, bent as if bitterly belabored. Superior and inferior were not at peace with each other, officials and commoners were not in harmony. Chen Shen, 29 a conscript soldier, arose in days. He bared his right arm and raised it, proclaiming himself Great Chu, and the empire responded like an echo. At that time, he did not have strong armor or sharp weapons, powerful bows, or hard spears. They cut date trees to make spears, they ground awls and chisels to make swords. They sharpened bamboo and shouldered hoes to meet keen halberds and strong crossbows, yet no city they attacked or land they invaded did not surrender to them. They roiled and shook, overran, and rolled up an area of several thousand square li throughout the world. Chen Shen's force and station were supremely lowly, and his weapons and equipment were of no advantage, yet one man sang out and the empire harmonized with him. This was because resentment had accumulated among the people. 15/145/23, 15/146/12 When King Wu attacked Zhao, he faced east and welcomed the year. 30 When he reached the Si River, there was a flood, when he reached Gongtu, a mountain collapsed. 31 A comet appeared and presented its tail to the men of Yin. During the battle, 10 suns rioted above, wind and rain struck below. 32 Yet, in front there were no rewards for braving danger, at the rear there were no punishments for flight. Clean blades were never fully drawn and the empire submitted. For this reason, he who is good at defending cannot be overcome, and he who is good at battle cannot be attacked. He understands the way of restricting entries and opening blockages. He takes advantage of the force of the moment, accords with the desires of the people, and seizes the world. 15/146/14, 1715.9 Thus, one who is good at governing accumulates moral potency, one who is good at using the military stores anger. When moral potency accumulates, the people may be employed, when anger is stored, our awesomeness may be established. Thus, when our culture has been applied shallowly, what is brought to submission by heft will be meager. If our potency functions broadly, what is controlled by our awesomeness will be expansive. When what is controlled by our awesomeness is broad, we are strong and the enemy is weak. Therefore, one who is good at using the military first weakens the enemy and only after does battle. In this way the expense is not even half, and the effect is naturally doubled. The territory of Tang was 70 li square, and he became king. This was because he cultivated his moral potency. Earl Ji had 1,000 li of land and perished. This was because he was exclusively martial. Thus, the ruler of 1,000 chariot state that practices civility and potency will become king, a 10,000 chariot state that is fond of using the military will perish. Thus, a complete soldier is first victorious and only then seeks battle, a defeated soldier gives battle first and only then seeks victory. If potency is equal, the many will defeat the few. If strength is matched, the intelligent will defeat the stupid. If intelligence is the same, then the one with numbers will capture the one without. In all use of the military, one must first fight from the temple. Whose ruler is more worthy? Whose commander is more able? Whose people are more obedient? Whose state is better ordered? Who has prepared more stores? Whose troops are better trained? Whose armor and weapons are better? Whose equipment is more efficient? In this way, one moves counters in the upper hall of the temple and decides victory more than 1,000 li away. 15/146/19 26:15.10 What has form and outline will be seen and praised by the world, what has chapter and verse will be transmitted and studied by the ages. These all are examples of forms overcoming one another. The one who is skilled at form does not use them as a model. What ennobles the way is its formlessness. Having no form, it thus cannot be controlled or coerced, cannot be measured or ruled, cannot be tricked or deceived, cannot be schemed against or planned for. People will make plans for one whose wisdom is apparent, they will attack one whose form is apparent, they will ambush one whose numbers are apparent, they will defend against one whose weapons are apparent. Those who move and initiate, circulate and turn, straighten and bend, contract and extend may be tricked and deceived, none is skilled. The movement of the skilled is as apparent as that of a spirit and yet proceeds like that of a ghost, is as brilliant as the stars and yet operates in obscurity. Advancing and retreating, contracting and extending, none sees its form or outline. It alights like the halcyon and rises like the kylin, flies like the phoenix and leaps like the dragon. It emerges like a gale, it speeds like lightning. It beats death with life, it overcomes decline with virility, it defeats torpor with speed, it controls hunger with fullness. It is like water eradicating fire, like heat melting snow. Where can one go where it does not follow? Where can one move where it does not reach? Within, empty and spirit-like, without, barren of will, it moves in the formless, it emerges where it is not expected, it leaves tumultuously, it returns unexpectedly. None knows its destination. Sudden as thunder and lightning, swift as wind and rain, as if bursting from the earth, as if falling from the sky, none can respond to or defend against it. Fast as bolts and arrows, how can it be matched? Now dark, now bright, who can know its beginning and end? Before one has seen its launching, it invariably has already arrived. 15/147/1, 11:15.11 Thus the one skilled in arms, on seeing the deficiency of the enemy, takes advantage of it and does not rest, pursues it and does not let it go, presses it and does not let it get away. He strikes while the enemy is in doubt, overruns him while he hesitates. He is like swift thunder that does not give the enemy time to cover his ears, fast lightning that leaves the enemy no leisure to cover his eyes. The one skilled in arms is like the sound to the echo, is like the gong to the drum. If a mote gets into the enemy's eye, he does not allow him to wipe it away. If the enemy exhales, he does not allow him to inhale. At this time, he does not look up to see heaven, he does not look down to view earth, his hand does not lift his spear, his weapon is not fully drawn. He strikes the enemy like thunder, he hits him like the wind, he scorches him like fire, he overcomes him like a wave. The enemy does not know where to stay while at rest, does not know what to do while in motion. Thus when the drums sound and the flags wave, none facing him do not give up or collapse. Who in the world dares to display might or maintain discipline when facing him? Therefore, one who anticipates others is victorious, one who awaits others is defeated, one who is led by others dies. 15/147/11, 1615.12 One whose soldiers are still stands firm, who is concentrated and united is mighty, whose duties are apportioned is brave, whose mind is in doubt flees, whose strength is divided is weak. Thus, if you can divide his soldiers and cause his mind to doubt, having a small fraction of his strength will be more than enough. If you cannot divide his soldiers and cause his mind to doubt, having many times his strength will not suffice. Zhao's soldiers numbered 1,000,000 and had 1,000,000 minds, King Wu's soldiers numbered 3,000 and all were concentrated and united. Thus, 1,000 men of the same mind yield the strength of 1,000 men, 10,000 men with different minds do not have the usefulness of one man. When commander and soldiers, officials, and people, all move and rest as if one body, you may respond to the enemy and join battle. Thus, when you set off after plans are firm, move after duties are apportioned. The commander has no doubtful designs, the soldiers have no separate mind, in motion there is no lax demeanor, in speech there are no empty words, in tasks there is no tentativeness, then you will surely respond to the enemy quickly, you will surely initiate action swiftly. Thus, the commander takes the people as his body, and the people take the commander as their mind. When the mind is sincere, the limbs and body will be close and cleave to it, when the mind is doubtful, the limbs and body will rebel and flee. If the mind is not concentrated and unified, the body will not be disciplined in action, if the commander is not sincere and sure, the soldiers will not be brave and daring. Thus the soldiers of a good commander are like the fangs of the tiger, like the horn of the rhinoceros, like the wings of a bird, like the feet of a millipede. They can advance, they can withdraw, they can bite, they can butt. They are strong without defeating one another, they are numerous without harming one another, one mind moves them. Thus, when the people earnestly follow orders, though they are few, there is nothing to fear, when the people do not follow orders, though they are many, they act as few. Thus, when inferiors are not close to superiors, the commander's mind is of no use, when the soldiers do not fear the commander, his formations will not do battle. Among defenses there are those that are sure to hold, among attacks there are those that are sure to triumph before weapons cross or edges meet. The crux of survival and destruction has invariably formed. 15/147/18, 2815.13 The military has three types of force and two forms of heft. 33 There is the force of qi, there is the force of terrain, there is the force of circumstance. When the commander is full of courage and scorns the enemy, when soldiers are daring and take joy in battle, when amid the three armies and within the myriad hosts, their will leaps to the sky, their qi is like the whirlwind, their sound is like thunder. Their sincerity amasses and their essence 34 overflows, so that their might falls on the enemy. These are called the force of qi. Mountain trails and marshy passes, great mountains and famous obstructions, dragon coils, umbrella peaks, sheep intestine paths, fish trap gates, 35 When one person holds the defile, 1,000 men do not dare pass. These are called the force of terrain. Relying on their being belabored and fatigued, negligent and disordered, hungry and thirsty, frozen or scorched, pushing them where they are unsteady, squeezing them where they are spread thin. These are called the force of circumstance. Skillfully using spies, carefully laying plans, establishing ambushes, concealing their form, emerging where he does not expect. Thus giving the enemy's soldiers no suitable defense, these are called the heft of knowledge. When the formations of soldiers are correct, the front rank is elite. They advance and retreat together, the units and squads maintain tight formation, the front and the rear do not restrain each other, the left and the right do not interfere with each other. When the blows received are few, the enemy wounded are many, these are called the heft of training. When advantage and force are surely formed, officers and soldiers are concentrated and excellent, the able are chosen and the talented employed, each office finds its right person. When plans are set and strategies decided, death and life are clear. When taking and releasing attain their proper time and none are not aroused and alert, then before the assault employs the battering ram or siege ladder, the city is taken, before in battle weapons cross or edges meet, the enemy is broken. This is to be enlightened about the arts of certain victory. Thus, if arms are not sure to be victorious, one does not rashly cross blades, if the assault is not sure to take its object, one does not rashly launch it. Only after victory is certain does one give battle, only after the scales 36 have weighed does one move. Thus, the masses form up and do not vainly scatter, the soldiers set out and do not fruitlessly return. 15/148/1, 11:15.14 On moving, only one who is devoid of a single movement scrapes the sky and shakes the earth. Lifting Mount Tai, blocking the four seas, moving and shifting ghosts and spirits, alarming and startling birds and beasts, when one is like this, in the countryside there are none who study arms, throughout the kingdom there are no defended cities. Meet agitation with stillness, match chaos with order, be without form and control what has form, be without purpose and respond to alterations, though this will not yet make you able to gain victory over the enemy, it will allow the enemy no path to victory. When the enemy moves before me, then from this I see his form. When he is agitated and I am still, then with this I can obstruct his strength. When his form is seen, then victory may be fashioned. When his strength is obstructed, my might may be established. View his purposes and transform in accord with them, observe his deviancy and straightness and thereby control his fate, feed him what he desires and thereby stop up his contentment. If he has a fissure, quickly rush into the crack. Compass his alterations and bind him, plumb his rhythms and unbalance 37 him. If the enemy returns to stillness, produce something unexpected for him, if he does not respond, unilaterally extinguish his sense of security. If I move and he responds, I can see his purposes, if he holds back, push him to move him, if he has accumulated something, there must be something that he lacks. If his best troops turn left, trap his right flank, if the enemy breaks and runs, his rear may definitely be moved. When the enemy is pressed and does not move, this is called lingering. Strike him like thunder, cut him like grass or trees, burn him like fire or lightning. You must hurry fast so that his men have no time to run, his carts have no time to roll, his weapons are like wooden plants, his crossbows are like sheep horns. Though his men are numerous, your force is such that he dare not strike. 15/148/11, 21:15.15 Of all things that have an image, there is not one that cannot be defeated, of all things that have form, there is none for which there is no response. This is why the sage lodges in nothingness and lets his mind roam in emptiness. Wind and rain can be blocked and screened, but cold and heat cannot be shut out, it is because they have no form. What can suffuse the essentially subtle, pierce metal and stone, reach the farthest distance, rise above the 9 heavens, and coil below the yellow springs is only the formless. One who is skilled at using arms should attack the enemy's disorder but should not assault his order. Do not attack well-dressed ranks, do not assault upright flags. If his demeanor cannot yet be seen, match him with equal numbers. If he has the form of death, follow and control him. If the enemy holds superior numbers, stay hidden while moving. If you meet fullness with deficiency, you surely will be captured by him. If tigers and leopards did not move, they would not enter the pit. If deer and elk did not move, they would not be taken by nets. If flying birds did not move, they would not be caught in snares. If fish and turtles did not move, they would not be grabbed by lips and beaks. Among things there is none that is not controlled by its motion. For this reason, the sage values stillness. He is still and thus can respond to agitation, he follows and thus can respond to one who leads, he is artful and can thus defeat one who is coarse, he is broad-reaching and can thus capture one who is deficient. 15/148/21, 15/149/5 15.16 Thus, for the good commander's use of soldiers, he merges their minds, he unites their strength, the brave cannot advance alone, the cowardly cannot retreat alone. At rest like hills and mountains, unleashed like the wind and rain, what they hit surely breaks, nothing is not destroyed or drenched. They move as a single body, none can respond to or defend against them. The 5 fingers tapping in turn are not as good as the whole hand rolled into a fist, 10,000 men advancing in turn are not as good as 100 men arriving together. Tigers and leopards have better speed, bears and grizzlies have more strength, yet people eat their meat and make mats of their hides because they are not able to communicate their knowledge and unite their strength. 38 The force of water overcomes fire, but if the Zhanghua Tower 39 caught fire, if one sought to save it by dousing it with ladles and spoons, though one emptied a well and drained a pond, it would be no use. But if one picked up pots, urns, bowls, and basins and drenched it, the fires being extinguished would only be a matter of time. Now humans with respect to other humans do not have the advantage of water over fire, and if they wish to match the many with the few, they will clearly not achieve their aim. One of the military traditions has a saying, the few can match the many. This refers to what one commands, not with which one gives battle. Some command many but use only a few, thus their force is not on a par with their numbers. One who commands a few but uses many of them increases his functional strength. If people employ their talents to the fullest and completely use their strength, it has never been heard of from antiquity to the current day that the few have defeated the many. 15/149/7, 15:15.17 There is no spirit nobler than heaven, there is no force more versatile than earth, there is no motion more swift than time, there is no resource more advantageous than people. These 4 are the pillars and trunks of the military, yet they must rely on the way to operate because the way can unite their functions. The advantage of terrain overcomes heaven and time, clever tactics overcome the advantage of terrain, force overcomes people. Thus, one who relies on heaven can be led astray, one who relies on earth can be trapped, one who relies on time can be pressured, one who relies on people can be fooled. Humaneness, courage, trustworthiness, and incorruptibility are the most excellent qualities among people. However, the brave can be lured, the humane can be robbed, the trustworthy are easily cheated, the incorruptible are easily schemed against. If the commander of a host has even one of these flaws, he will be taken captive. Seen from this perspective, it also is clear that victory in arms is produced by the pattern of the way, not by the worthiness of human character. Thus, deer and elk can be seized by snares, fish and turtle can be taken by nets, geese and swans can be collected with the dart and line. Only to the formless may nothing be done. For this reason, the sage lodges in the sourceless, so his feelings cannot be grasped and observed, moves in the formless, so his formations cannot be attained and traced. He has no model and no protocol, he does what is appropriate for what arrives, he has no name and no shape, he fashions a new image for each alteration. How deep? How distant? Through winter and summer, through spring and fall, above reaching the highest branch, below fathoming the deepest depth, altering and transforming, never hesitating or halting, he sets his mind in the field of profound mystery and lodges his will in the spring of the nine returns. 40 Though one has acute eyes, who can detect his feelings? 15/149/15, 24:15.18 What soldiers discuss secretly is the way of heaven, what they chart and draw is the terrain, what they speak of openly is human affairs, what decides victory for them is heft and force. Thus the superior commander's use of soldiers, above reaches the way of heaven, below reaches the benefit of the terrain, between these, he reaches the minds of the people. He then moves them at the fulcral moment and launches them replete with force. This is why he never has broken armies or defeated soldiers. Coming to the mediocre commander, above he does not understand the way of heaven, below he does not understand the benefit of the terrain, he exclusively uses people and force. Though he will not be perfectly successful, his balance will mostly be victories. About the inferior commander's use of soldiers, he is broadly informed yet is himself disordered, he has much knowledge yet doubts himself, at rest he is afraid, setting forth he hesitates. For this reason, when he moves he becomes another's captive. 15/149/26, 30 Now let two people cross blades. If their skill or clumsiness is no different, the braver warrior will certainly win. Why is this? It is because of the sincerity of his actions. If you use a great axe on logs and firewood, you need not wait for a beneficial time or a good day to chop it. If you put the axe on top of the logs and firewood without the aid of human effort, though you accord with the Farflight asterism 41 and have hold of rescission and accretion, 42 you will not chop it because there is no force. Thus, when water is agitated, it dries up, when an arrow is agitated, it flies far. The end of an arrow made of kiwi bamboo 43 and capped with silver and tin could not on its own pierce even a vest of thin silk or a shield of rotten leaves. If you lend it the strength of sinew and bone, the force of bow or crossbow, then it will pierce rhino hide armor and pass through a leather shield. The speed of the wind can reach the point of blowing away roofs or breaking trees, but if an empty carriage reaches a great thoroughfare from atop a high hill, a person has pushed it. 44 For this reason, the force of one who is skilled at using arms is like releasing amassed water from 1,000 ren high dike, like rolling round stones into a 10,000 jong deep gorge. 45 When the world sees that my soldiers will certainly be effective, then who will dare offer me battle? Thus 100 men who are sure to die are worth more than 10,000 men who are sure to flee. How much more is the multitude of the three armies who will enter fire and water without turning tail? Even if I challenged the entire world to cross blades, who would dare step up first? 15/150/1, 915.19 These are what are called the divisions of heaven, the blue-green dragon to the left, the white tiger to the right, the vermilion bird in front, the dark warrior behind. 46 What is called the advantages of earth? Life behind and death in front, valleys on the left and hills on the right. What is called human affairs? Rewards being trustworthy and punishments sure, movement and stillness being timely, withdrawal and emplacement being swift. These are what the ages have passed down as models and signs, and they are venerable. 47 But they are not that by which one survives. True models and signs are those that alter and transform in accordance with the times. Thus, one stands in the shade of the upper hall and knows the progress of the sun and moon, one sees the ice at the bottom of the jar and knows the cold and hot seasons of the world. That by which things give form to one another is subtle, only the sage fathoms its utmost. Thus, though the drum is not among the 5 tones, it is the master of the 5 tones, though water is not among the 5 flavors, it blends the 5 flavors, though the commander is not among the 5 officers, he controls the 5 officers. The drum can harmonize the 5 tones because it is not among the 5 tones, water can blend the 5 flavors because it is not among the 5 flavors, the commander can order the affairs of the 5 officers because he himself cannot be surveyed or measured. For this reason, the mind of the commander is warm like the spring, hot like the summer, cool like the fall, cold like the winter. He accords with conditions and transforms with them, follows the seasons and shifts with them. 15/150/11, 1915.20 A shadow cannot be crooked if the thing itself is straight, an echo cannot be a high note if the sound itself is a low note. Observe what he sends and respond to each with what defeats it. For this reason, hold uprightness and move, promote order and set forth, conceal your nodal points, and discard your injuries, rely on your strengths, and complete your objective. Make him know you're coming out but not know you're going in, know you're withdrawing but not know you're amassing. Be at first like a fox or a raccoon dog, then he will advance at ease. On meeting, be like a rhino or a tiger, then the enemy will take flight. When a soaring bird strikes, it pulls in its head, when a ferocious beast attacks, it conceals its claws. The tiger and leopard do not let their fangs show, biting dogs do not show their teeth. Thus the way of using arms is to show them softness and meet them with hardness, show them weakness and ride them with strength, make as if contracting and respond to them by expanding. When the commander wants to go west, he shows them east. At first he stands aloof, yet after he engages, in front he is dark yet behind he is bright. Like ghosts, leaving no tracks, like water, bearing no scars. Thus where he tends toward is not where he arrives, what he reveals is not what he plans. Taking, giving, moving, resting, none can recognize him. Like the stroke of thunder, one cannot prepare for him. He does not repeat any tactic he uses, so he can always be victorious. He communicates with the mysterious brilliance, none knows his portals. This is known as the supremely spirit-like. 15/150/21, 28 15.21 What makes the military strong is being set on death. What makes the people set on death is rightness. What makes rightness able to be practiced is awesomeness. For this reason, gather them with civility, order them with martiality. This is called sure attainment. When awesomeness and rightness are practiced together, this is known as supreme strength. What people take joy in is life, and what they hate is death. Even so, at high walls and deep moats, when arrows and stones fall like rain, on flat plains and broad marshes, where naked blades cross and meet, soldiers will compete to advance and engage the enemy. It is not that they scorn death and take joy in injury, it is because rewards are trustworthy and punishments are clear. 15/151/1, for this reason, if superiors view inferiors as sons, inferiors will view superiors as fathers. If superiors view inferiors as younger brothers, inferiors will view superiors as older brothers. If superiors view inferiors as sons, they will surely be king over the four seas. If inferiors view superiors as fathers, they will surely rectify the world. If superiors are intimate with inferiors as with younger brothers, then the inferiors will not find it difficult to die for their superiors. If inferiors see their superiors as older brothers, then the superiors will not find it difficult to perish for their inferiors. For this reason, one cannot fight with opponents who are as close as fathers, sons, older brothers, and younger brothers because of the goodwill accumulated over previous generations. Thus, if the four horses were not in harmony, even Zaofa would not be able to travel far. If bow and arrow were not in harmony, even ye would not be able to always hit the mark. If ruler and minister were of separate minds, even sons of 48 would not be able to face the enemy. Thus, within, the ruler cultivates his governance in accumulating potency, without, he stops up resentment by causing people to submit to his awesomeness. 15/151/6, 10:15.22 Investigate the soldiers' labor and ease so as to be aware of their fullness and hunger, so when the day of battle arrives, they will view death as a homecoming. The commander must share the troops' sweetness and bitterness, matching their hunger and cold. Thus he can win their loyalty unto death, even to the last man. Thus in antiquity, skillful commanders were sure to personally take the lead. In the heat, they did not spread a canopy, in the cold, they did not don furs, so as to equal the soldiers' heat and cold. In narrow defile they would not ride, going uphill they would always dismount, 49 so as to match the soldiers' fatigue and ease. When the army's food was cooked, only then did they dare eat, when the army's well had been bored, only then did they dare drink, so as to share the soldiers' hunger and thirst. When battle was joined, they would stand where the arrows and stones were arriving, so as to partake of the soldiers' safety and danger. Thus the good commander's use of soldiers constantly struck accumulated resentment with accumulated potency, struck accumulated hatred with accumulated love. Why would he not triumph? 15/151/10, 15 What the ruler asks of the people is twofold, he asks the people to labor for him, he wants the people to die for him. What the people hope of the ruler is threefold, that if they are hungry, he will feed them, that if they are fatigued, he will rest them, that if they have merit, he will be able to reward them. If the people fulfill their two duties and the ruler disappoints their three hopes, though the kingdom is large and the people numerous, the military will be weak. The embittered must attain what they take joy in, the belabored must attain what they find profit in. The merit of cutting heads must be fully remunerated, service unto death must be posthumously rewarded. If in these four, one keeps faith with the people, even if the ruler shoots at birds in the clouds, angles for fish in the deep abyss, plucks the chine and essie, listens to bells and pipes, plays liubo or tosses high pots, 50 The military will still be strong, orders will still be carried out. For this reason, if superiors are worthy of reverence, inferiors may be used, if one's potency is worthy of admiration, one's awesomeness may be established. 15/151/17, 22 15.23 The commander must have 3 guides, 4 ethics, 5 conducts, and 10 disciplines. What are called the 3 guides above? Understand the way of heaven, below study the shape of the terrain, among them investigate the feelings of the people. What are called the 4 ethics? They are to benefit the kingdom without favoring the military, to serve the ruler without thought for yourself, to face difficulty without fearing death, and to decide doubts without avoiding punishment. What are called the 5 conducts? They are to be soft but unable to be rolled up, to be hard but unable to be snapped, to be humane but unable to be insulted, to be faithful but unable to be cheated, and to be brave but unable to be overcome. What are called the 10 disciplines? Your spirit is pure and cannot be sullied, your plans are far-reaching and cannot be anticipated, your training is firm and cannot be moved, your awareness is lucid and cannot be blocked, you are not greedy 51 for wealth, you are not corrupted by things, you are not taken in by disputation, you are not moved by occult arts, you cannot be pleased, you cannot be angered. This is called the perfect model. Obscure. Mysterious. Who understands his feelings? The ideal commander's initiatives surely accord with the heft, 52 His words surely correspond to the measure, his actions surely comply with the seasons. His resolutions surely hit the correct pattern. He comprehends the activation of motion and stillness, he is enlightened to the rhythm of opening and closing, he has investigated the benefit and harm of removing and deploying, so that they are as if merging 2 halves of a tally. He is swift like a cocked crossbow, his force is like that of a released arrow, now a dragon, now a snake, his movements have no constant shape. None sees his middle, none know his end. When he attacks, there is no defense, when he defends, he cannot be attacked. 15/151/24, 15/152/2 It has been said that one who is skilled at the use of arms must first cultivate it in himself and only afterward seek it in other people. He must first make himself invincible and only then seek out victory. To look for self-cultivation from others and beg victory from the enemy, not yet being able to order oneself and yet attacking another's disorder, these are like extinguishing fire with more fire, responding to a flood with more water. What can it accomplish? Now if a potter were to be transformed into clay, he could not fashion plates and pots. If a weaver girl were to be transformed into silk, she could not weave patterned cloth. Like things do not suffice to control one another, thus only something different can be extraordinary. If two sparrows are fighting with each other, the arrival of a falcon or a hawk will break them apart because they are of a different sort. Thus stillness is extraordinary to agitation, and order is extraordinary to chaos, fullness is extraordinary to hunger, and ease is extraordinary to labor. The mutual response of the extraordinary and the usual are like the way that water, fire, metal, and wood take turns being servant and master. The one who is skilled at the use of arms maintains the 5 lethal conducts in responding, so he can complete his victory. The one who is clumsy abides in the 5 fatal failings and overreaches, so when he moves he becomes another's captive. 5315/152/4, 915.24 The military values plans being unfathomable and formations being concealed. Emerge where one is not expected, so the enemy cannot prepare a defense. If plans are seen, they will fail, if formations are seen, they will be controlled. Thus one who is skilled at using arms, above hides them in heaven, below hides them in earth, between hides them among people. One who hides them in heaven can control anything. What is called hiding them in heaven? It is to alter in accordance with great cold, profound heat, swift wind, violent rain, heavy fog, or dark night. What is called hiding it in earth? It is being able to conceal one's formations amid mountains, hills, forests, and valleys. What is called hiding it among people? Blocking their view in front, facing them in the rear. While producing an unexpected maneuver or moving a formation, breaking forth like thunder, rushing like the wind and rain. Furling the great banners, silencing the loud drums so that one's coming and going has no traces, none knows their beginning or end. 15/152/1115 When front and rear are correctly aligned, the 4 corners are as if bound together, when coming and going, disengaging and continuing do not interfere with one another, when light troops are at the wings and crack soldiers are at the flanks. Some forward and some at the rear, when in parting and merging, dispersing and concentrating, companies and squads are not broken up, this is to be skilled at deploying moving formations. When one is clear as to freak occurrences and anomalies, yin and yang, rescission and accretion, the 5 phases, the observance of qi, astrology, 54 and spirit supplication, 55 This is to be skillful at the way of heaven. When one establishes plans, places ambushes, uses fire and water, 56 Produces anomalies. When one has the army shout and drum so as to confuse the enemy's ears and drags bundled sticks to kick up dust and confuse the enemy's eyes, all these are being skilled at deception and dissimulation. When the chun 57 sounds resolutely, when one's will is firm 58 and not easily frightened, when one cannot be lured by force or advantage, when one cannot be shaken by death or defeat, these are to be skilled at bolstering strength. When one is agile and quick to strike, when one is brave and scorns the enemy, when one is swift as a horse at the gallop, these are to be skilled at using speed and creating surprise. When one assesses the shape of the terrain, when one lodges at rest camps, when one fixes walls and fortifications, when one is careful of depressions 59 and salt marshes, when one occupies the high ground, when one avoids exposed positions. These are to be skilled at using the shape of the terrain. When one relies on the enemy's hunger, thirst, cold, and heat, when one belabors his fatigue and aggravates his disorder, when one deepens his fear and hampers his steps, when one hits him with elite troops, when one strikes him at night. These are to be skilled at according with the seasons and responding to alterations. When one uses chariots on easy terrain, when one uses mounted horsemen on obstructed terrain, when one uses more bowmen while crossing water, when one uses more crossbowmen in a narrow pass, when one uses more flags by day, when one uses more fires by night, when one uses more drums at dusk. These are to be skilled in logistics. One cannot lack even one of these 8, even though they are not what is most valuable to the military. 15/152/17, 26 15.25 The commander must see singularly and know singularly. Seeing singularly is to see what is not seen. Knowing singularly is to know what is not known. To see what others do not is called enlightenment. To know what others do not is called spirit-like. The spirit-like and enlightened is one who triumphs in advance. He who triumphs in advance cannot be attacked when he defends, cannot be defeated in battle, cannot be defended against when he attacks. This is because of emptiness and fullness. When there is a gap between superiors and inferiors, when the commander and officials do not cooperate, when what one upholds is not straight, when the minds of the soldiers accumulate insubordination, this is called emptiness. When the ruler is enlightened and the commander competent. When superiors and inferiors are of the same mind, when the soldiers' qi and intentions both are aroused, this is called fullness. It is like throwing water at fire, what it lands on squarely will collapse, what it hits sparsely will be moved. Hard and soft do not interpenetrate, victory and defeat 60 are alien to each other. This speaks of emptiness and fullness. Being skilled at battle does not reside in the few, being skilled at defense does not reside in the small, victory resides in attaining awesomeness, defeat resides in losing qi. 15/152/27, 15/153/4 The full should fight, the empty should run, the thriving should be strong, the declining should flee. The territory of King Fuke of Wu was 2,000 li square, and he had 70,000 armored warriors. To the south he fought with Yu and routed them at Kuiji. To the north he fought with Qi and broke them at Ailing. To the west he met the Duke of Jin and captured him at Huangqi. 61 This is to use the people's qi when it is full. Afterward he became arrogant and gave free rein to his desires, he scorned admonition and took delight in slander, he was violent and followed erroneous advice, he could not be spoken to honestly. The great officials were resentful, the people were insubordinate. The king of Yu and 3,000 elite troops captured Fuke at Gansui. 62 This was taking advantage of his emptiness. That qi has empty and full phases is like the darkness following the light. Thus, a victorious military is not always full, a defeated military is not always empty. He who is skilled can fill his people's qi while awaiting others' emptiness. He who is incapable empties his people's qi while awaiting others' fullness. Thus the qi of emptiness and fullness are what is most valued by the military. 15/153/6, 11:15.26 Whenever the kingdom has difficulty, from the palace the ruler summons the commander, charging him, the fate of the altars of the soil and grain are on your person. The kingdom faces a crisis, I wish you to take command and respond to it. When the commander has accepted his mandate, the ruler orders the supplicator and great diviner to fast, sequestered for 3 days. Going to the great temple, they consult the magic tortoise to divine a lucky day for receiving the drums and flags. The ruler enters the temple portal, faces west, and stands. The commander enters the temple portal, rushes to the foot of the platform, faces north, and stands. The sovereign personally grasps the Yu axe. Holding it by the head, he offers the commander its handle, saying, "From here up to heaven is controlled by you the commander." The ruler again grasps the Fu axe. Holding it by the head, he offers the commander its handle, saying, "From here down to the abyss is controlled by you the commander." 63 When the commander has accepted the Fu and Yu axes, he replies, "Just as the kingdom cannot be governed from without, the army cannot be ruled from within." 64 Just as one cannot serve the ruler with 2 minds, one cannot respond to the enemy with a doubtful will. Since I, your minister, have received control from you, I exclusively wield the authority of the drums, flags, and Fu and Yu axes. I ask nothing in return. I only hope that your highness likewise will not hand down one word of command to me. If your highness does not agree, I dare not take command. If your highness agrees, I will take my leave and set out. The commander then trims his fingernails, 65 dons funeral garb, and exits through the ill-augured portal. 66 He mounts the commander's chariot and arrays the banners and axes, tied as if not yet victorious. On meeting the enemy and committing to battle, he pays no heed to certain death, he does not have two minds. For this reason, he has no heaven above, he has no earth below, he has no enemy in front, he has no ruler behind, he does not seek fame in advancing, he does not avoid punishment in retreating, he seeks only to protect the people, his benefit is united with that of the ruler. This is the treasure of the kingdom, the way of the superior commander. If he is like this, the clever will plan for him, the brave will fight for him, their chi will scrape the azure clouds, they will be swift as galloping steeds. Thus before weapons have clashed, the enemy is terrified. If the battle is victorious and the enemy flees, the commander thoroughly dispenses rewards for merit. He reassigns his officers, increasing their rank and emolument. He sets aside land and apportions it, making sure it is outside the feudal mound. 67 Last, he judges punishments within the army. Turning back, he returns to the kingdom, lowering his banners and storing the fu and yu axes. He makes his final report to the ruler, saying, I have no further control over the army. He then dons coarse silk and enters seclusion. The commander goes to ask pardon of the ruler. The ruler says, spare him. The commander withdraws and dons fasting garb. For a great victory, he remains secluded for 3 years, for a middling victory, 2 years, for a lesser victory, 1 year. That against which the military was used was surely a kingdom without the way. Thus one can triumph in battle without retribution, take territory without returning it, the people will not suffer illness, the commander will not die early, the 5 grains will flourish, the winds and rains will be seasonable, the battle is won without, good fortune is born within. Thus one's reputation will be made, and afterward there will be no further harm. 15/153/13, 29